Welcome once again, my friends, and thank you for stopping by to listen to an old storyteller. Today we have a story from France, and the title of this story is The Sacrifice. Ourson turned his steps homeward, discouraged and exhausted. He walked slowly and arrived at the farm late. Violette ran to meet him, took him by the hand, and without saying a word, led him to his mother. There she fell on her knees and said, "My mother, I know what our well-beloved Ourson has suffered today. During his absence the Fairy Furious has told me all, and the good Fairy Drolette has confirmed her story. My mother, when our Ourson was, as we believed, lost to us forever, and lost for my sake, you revealed to me that which in his nobility and goodness he wished to conceal. I know that by changing skins with him I can restore him his original beauty. Happy, 100 times happy in having this opportunity to recompense the tenderness and devotion of my dearly beloved brother Ourson. I demand to make this exchange allowed by the Fairy Drolette, and I entreat her to complete the transfer immediately." "Violette! Violette!" exclaimed Ourson, in great agitation. "Take back your words! You do not know to what you engage yourself. You are ignorant of the life of anguish and misery unparalleled, the life of solitude and isolation to which you thus condemn yourself. You know not the unceasing desolation you will feel at knowing that you are an object of fear to all mankind. Violette, Violette, in pity to me, withdraw your words." "Dear Ourson," said Violette calmly but resolutely, "in making what you believe to be so great a sacrifice, I accomplish the dearest wish of my heart. I secure my own happiness. I satisfy an ardent and imperious desire to testify my tenderness and my gratitude. I esteem myself for doing what I propose. I should despise myself if I left it undone." "Pause, Violette, for one instant longer, I beseech you. Think of my grief, when I no longer see my beautiful Violette. When I think of you exposed to the railleries, the horror of man. Oh, Violette, do not condemn your poor Ourson to this anguish." The lovely face of Violette was veiled with sadness. The fear that Ourson would feel repugnance toward her made her heart tremble. But this thought, which was wholly personal, was very fleeting. It could not triumph over her devoted tenderness. Her only response was to throw herself into the arms of Agnella and say, "Mother, embrace your fair and pretty Violette for the last time." Whilst Agnella, Ourson, and Passerose embraced her and looked lovingly upon her, whilst Ourson, on his knees, supplicated her to leave him his bearskin to which he had been accustomed for 20 years, Violette called out again in a loud voice, "Fairy Drolette! Fairy Drolette, come and accept the price of the life and health of my dear Ourson." At this moment the Fairy Drolette appeared in all her glory. She was seated in a massive chariot of gold, drawn by 150 larks. She was clothed with a robe of butterflies' wings, of the most brilliant colours, whilst from her shoulders fell a mantle of network of diamonds, which trailed 10 feet behind her, and it was so fine in texture that it was light as gauze. Her hair, glittering like tissues of gold, was ornamented by a crown of carbuncles more brilliant than the sun. Each of her slippers was carved from a single ruby, and her beautiful face, soft yet gay, breathed contentment. She fixed upon Violette a most affectionate regard. "You wish it, then, my daughter?" said she. "Madam," cried Ourson, falling at her feet, "deign to listen to me. You who have loaded me with undeserved benefits, you who have inspired me with boundless gratitude, you, good and just, will you execute the mad wish of my dear Violette? Will you make my whole life wretched by forcing me to accept this sacrifice? No, no, charming and humane fairy, you could not. You will not do it." Whilst Ourson was thus supplicating, the fairy gave Violette a light touch with her wand of pearl, and Ourson another, then said, Let it be according to the wish of your heart, my daughter. Let it be contrary to your ardent desires, my son." At the same moment, the face, arms, and the whole body of the lovely young girl was covered with the long hair which Ourson had worn, and Ourson appeared with a white, smooth skin, which set off his extreme beauty to advantage. Violet gazed at him with admiration, while he, his eyes cast down and full of tears, dared not look at his poor Violet, so horribly metamorphosed. At last he looked up, threw himself in her arms, and they wept together. Ourson was marvelously handsome. Violet was, as Ourson had been, without form, without beauty, but not ugly. When Violet raised her head and looked at Agnella, the latter extended her hands toward her and said, "Thanks, my daughter, my noble, generous child." "Mother," said Violet in low voice, "do you love me still?" "Do I love you, my cherished child? Yes, 100 times, 1,000 times more than ever before." "Violet," said Ourson, "never fear being ugly in our eyes. To my eyes, you are 100 times more beautiful than when clothed with all your loveliness. To me you are a sister, a friend incomparable. You will always be the companion of my life, the ideal of my heart."
Thank you once again for listening to this story. If you enjoyed this story, please press that like button. Also, please help an old storyteller out by subscribing to my channel. The next story will be posted in a few days, so until then, may your story continue to be a good one.